fam, what's good? I hope you kawa and taking care of yourself, drinking water, minding your business, and just leaving. It's not that serious. None of us is going to leave this place alive. So I hope you spend some time to lean more into the moments that give you life. I repeat, it's not that serious. It's not that deep. So leave, breathe, and don't be so uptight. Today's episode, I've been thinking about people pleasing. I've been thinking about sharing. I've thought about it over and over again down the work, and I just wanted to come on here and share. If you are someone who is too terrified to stand your ground and say, you know what? No, I don't have to deal with this shit. And I'm saying this from experience because I am a recovering, certified serial people pleaser. Like, it's embarrassing because I don't know, coming into adulthood, like from teenage years to now coming into my 20s, I always perceived myself as, I'm a nice girl. The world is a nice place. People are kind, people have good intentions, go through life with, a light heart, don't hold grudges, blah, blah. I mean, all this is great, really. But then growing up, you realize it's not true. The world is not a beautiful place where everyone has clear and good intentions for you, or people are considerate, or they, they think about you before they do things. You realize human beings, human nature, we're self-obsessed, we are self-consumed, we're inconsiderate. You're just going through life without thinking what your actions can do to others. And now, people pleasing cuts all across. From my experience, it was mostly I endure shit because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to cause friction. We don't have to fight about this. It's fine. I'll clean it up. It's fine. I'll do the work for you. It's fine. I'll send the email. It's fine. You get, like, you go through the whole, okay, it's fine. I can, yeah. Because you, like, if you stand your ground and say, hey, let me put you in your place, you end up in, I don't know, unclear waters. And for me, that felt like so much tension that I would rather, and then it went on for a long time. The other way in which it reflected in my life was if I was to make a decision, I'd have to ask all my friends. I mean, of course, I don't have like 50, but like maybe 3, 4, 5. If, let's say, I wanted to, let me use the smallest example. Let me say do my hair. I would talk to all of them about the hair. And if they're like, no, I would go against it. And that for me, in like doing my reflection and analysis, it came from the fact that I do not trust myself enough. So of course I'll go on and dissect reasons as to why you end up in people pleasing situations. But for me now, in that case, it was, you don't trust yourself enough to know that you are capable of making the right decision. That's why you run this by a million people to get the idea, to get their validation, and then for you to go ahead and make a decision, which creates a lot of decision fatigue. The other way in which it reflected in my life was really, I just wanted to be a cool person because I kept, you grow and you realize, okay, I don't like this, but then you're like, which is I think what I mentioned before, I'm like, you realize, I'll just fit in, it's fine. Because you think if you stood your ground more often, you'd lose the friend you have already in place. And what that meant for me was I was too terrified to, see what's up there. Maybe there are people who would meet your standards then, but you're too terrified to leave space for that. So I've grown up to learn that a lot of these things, even oversharing, I there's a term that I used to share way too much about myself. Way too much. If it's a guy I plan on dating, or if it's a job I want to take, if it's some place I want to go, if it's some house I want to move to, I'm running it by like a million people to just get their opinion. And then I realized, and I think this was the turning point for me, I realized that all these people that I was sharing these things with, when in cases where I thought they would do the same, they never did that. And not even in a bad way, but like, next thing you hear is like, hey, I moved. And you're like, oh, you didn't say? They're like, nah. And then you think you're like, hey, man, I was literally sharing everything about where I'm moving to, why I'm moving, this guy I'm dating, why I'm dating him, why I shouldn't. And hey, you're doing these things without me knowing. And then I realized they didn't share because, I don't know, they didn't trust me or whatever. They didn't think they had to share because their minds were already made up about these things. They didn't need me to approve or to share my opinion. And that's when, for me now, I was like, okay, what's this called? And I keep thinking, I'm like, okay, our generation overly self-diagnoses things and all. And I keep wondering, I'm like, did our parents go through these things as well? Was there such a thing as people pleasing then? Or I don't know anyways. But yeah, so I want to get into some of the reasons as to why you end up people pleasing and why you end up going through that whole routine. One, I've learned that it's as a result of being overly conditioned as a child. Some of us grew up in households where if you drop the water drops on the floor, your parent wants to kill you. You had to do everything with supervision from an elder. If you're going to use a knife, so the whole you grow up in a mental state where you really don't trust that, hey, you can make small big decisions without consulting another person, and that is true. So you need to check if you're in that same space. Kind of reflect back to your childhood. What was it like? Did you grow up in a very timid household of like, what are you doing? Why are you gonna do that? What? You get like that whole tension in the household raises you to become overly careful, and now you're like, okay, I don't think I trust myself enough to make the right decision in this situation, and now I have to run it over other 3, 4, 5 people. That's one. Secondly, this is very sensitive, but just take it easily, really. A lot of people pleasing comes from a point of low self-worth. You just say yes to things to pour from an empty cup all the freaking time because you want them to like you like that. You know they're asking for too much, but you don't want to say no because you're like, oh, if I say no, they won't like me. And truly we do these things in relationships, even just friendships. This person is not into you like that, but then now all of a sudden they come with their selfish request and you're like, yeah, it's fine, I'll do it for you because you want them to like you like that. It reflects back to how your self-worth is still in a questionable state, and you need to address that from within. Thirdly, in my experience, is we're afraid of being rejected. Like I said earlier, you want to fit in. If you stand your ground like this, people are going to be like, oh, that chick is not cool enough. So you sort of self-sabotage in the sense of like, it's fine, I'll just let this one slide because I want to fit in, which is the same as you're afraid of conflict. You don't want to say, hey, no, don't do that, because you're like, okay, so we are going to end up fighting, and I don't want to fight. The other reason that I've learned as to why we do this is perfectionism. A lot of us, that for me now, from experience, I noticed I had this because I'm like, in my head, I had made up this version of myself like I am a sweet little girl who is like self-preserved and very sweet, and I thought the whole being a perfect friend or a perfect girlfriend or a perfect person in the world or in the workplace meant, hey, there's no conflict, there's no friction, no boundaries. You come in and the way you want, you go out the way you want, and that made people like me more, and I was perfect, and I was flawless and dependable. Hey, like I said, this world, once people know they can take from you, they will take and take and take. I cannot go on and on, but like I promise you, we are always willing to take. It's human nature. Like the moment you realize you will take and take, you cross lines and cross and cross and cross until, so you have to establish boundaries like, hey, you're great, but I am uncomfortable with this. You cannot do this to me like that. The other reason is a lot of us, which is again typical human nature, we need that external validation. And I think we still do it to date, yeah? The idea of you have plans, you have a project coming up, and then you share it with your friends because you want, oh my God, you're so genius. And now what this does, this is a lesson in its own, by the way. The idea of sharing your ideas or plans before you actually do them. Sort of like, there's a word for it. It gives that immediate constant adrenaline of like, oh, that's a good idea. And then you never actually get to implement it. You actually never get out to do the work. So whatever plans you have, whether it's to, I don't know, buy a house or buy a car, or you better check within yourself to say, hey, do I really want this? Yes, go ahead and get it. Don't ask for opinions, for advice, because, hey, at the end of the day, this is your life. So whether you seek external validation about it or not, the only person that's going to see it through is yourself. So you better build up on your self-worth as well and your self-identity, and like just stay true to yourself, yeah? Most of it can actually also come from society, parents, religion, culture, and I totally understand as someone who's who's living a life that's about to scratch surfaces and challenging status quo. Believe me when I say going against societal standards is very, very hard. Like, in my experience doing this podcast, doing the other one, Joanne on Air, as we challenge status quo, and I've learned that, hey, these are things that have been rooted in systems for decades and centuries, and it can be so hard for you to say, they say, because I'm trying to find the most less sensitive example to term the idea of, hey, there's boundaries in whatever situation you're in, whether it's based on religion or culture or whatever societal limitations are over there. It takes a lot for you to arrive at a point where you say, you know what, this is it. And as I always say, so for me lately, my thought process about people pleasing again goes back to fear. Fear of people liking me or not liking me, fear of people perceiving me a certain type of way because I said no, fear of putting boundaries in place and saying, hey, you cannot do that to me. It goes back to death. I'm like, hey, I only have one life. I'm not going to spend that life letting people like you do that shit to me. Like, I don't know, but I feel like I've picked up so much grit and muscle for life from the reality that death is. Like, hey, this is my life. I am uncomfortable with this, so you either get your shit together and respect me, or you leave me alone. And I hope and pray that you pick up the same guts and balls to go through life and quit that whole people-pleasing element. There's no award for it. The government doesn't pay salary because you're the nicest person in the room. The only person that's going to feel drained and exhausted is you. Because I've also noticed that the more you self-sabotage for other people, you grow so much resentment for them. I've seen that in real time. Like, just because they did something, you're like, yeah, it's fine. They'll do it again. They'll do something worse. In fact, they keep doing worse things, and then you're like, I've seen this in real time in relationships. I hear people share about experiences with their relationships, and I'm like, you people please too much. You please this person too much. And now you've gotten to a point where you just resent them for how much struggle they've had to put you through. I see boys saying things like, oh, I met this chick, she was asking me for money, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because the relationship was still new, so I gave her the money. She wanted to do her hair. She wanted da-da-da. Hey, if you don't want to send her money, don't send her the money. It's as simple as that, because the more you self-sabotage and squeeze yourself, you're like, she's nice. It's a new relationship. What will she think of me? She'll think I'm a broke guy. Da-da-da. Honey, it will eventually accumulate for you to get to a point where you're like, I hate this chick. She has taken so much from me. Yet now the chick is at a different give. Like, oh my God, my boyfriend is so nice. He's taking care of me. Well, guys, I know this sounds wrong, but hey, this is your life. Not your parents, not your girlfriends, not your children's life. Be very, very selfish. I keep thinking about this. For me, that's my thought process lately. I'm like, hey, this is not my parents' life. I want to please them and make them proud. I'm doing that as much as I can, but if it's not calming, it's not calming. Same as for religion or whatever. Like, even for my boss, or like, I have respect for people, but at the same time, thank God for growth, guys. Growth is such a beautiful thing. Like me, 2-3 years ago, 25, 24, I honestly wasn't like this. I was very, I'm such a nice guy. Oh my God. I want people to like me. You get like, you're so consumed with thinking that the world is a nice, warm place. The world is a shitty place. People will take from you. People will walk on your head. Even when you evidently see that, hey, I am smarter than you, but I'm letting this slide. But even in that moment, you're giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are smarter than you, and now they're getting away with that shit. And honestly, for me, I woke up at some point and I was just so angry at how much shit I'd taken from people. And I'm like, okay, I am the problem here, because I think if I told of this person from point one, maybe we would be either not here or we would be in a better relationship. So same for you. Your people pleasing, your inability to say no is not making you a nice person. You just look dumb and stupid and like you look funny. You're not, your perception of people's perception of you is not, oh Bambi, Joanne is a nice chick. People think you're dumb. So I hope you get to peace. I hope this pisses you off. and wakes you up to establish boundaries and learn to say, if you're uncomfortable, say, hey, I don't like the way you talk to me. I don't like the way you did that. I don't like the way you made me feel. Say it as it is at that point, whether you guys fight or they don't talk to you again or they leave you alone. Even the better for you, because you're creating room for more people, for more respectful people, for high quality people that will appreciate you and respect you with the boundaries you've put in place. So I hope this helps you, people pleasing us, to do better today. Bye. Oh, and before I forget, I saw a line on social media, I think a while ago. You all must have seen it, that said, Madam People Pleaser, who is pleased with you? Like, all these people you're trying to please, can you show me 5 people who are pleased with you? And I was like, yeah, right. I don't know anyone who is pleased with me. So I hope that haunts you as well. Bye. For real this time.